the only way, at least for me, I've realized that I wouldn't do the 100-hour work weeks and day after day, year after year, if I had not actually just said, no, there's only one option, and jumped so far in that you can't even go back. So Joel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Really, you're the second barber thus far after Zay, who's been on here, and which I'm kind of excited about because you guys work in the same shop, right? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Shout out to Zay the barber. He actually has been taking on his education full term now. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's not even in the shop.
Oh, wow. So he's going. How is that going? Well, do you know?
Oh yeah. Anything I know about Zay is that he's gonna
crush it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about because it's a rich barber, right? Is that the whole concept? Is that from Sacramento or is that from somewhere else?
Oh yeah, no, it actually originated right there on J Street, just a couple minutes down the road.
Wow, and because the guy who founded it, right? There, is he in LA or something? Is that
correct? Yeah. Yep.
What's the concept behind that? The rich barber.
The rich barber is really based off of an idea,
mm-hmm.
and there's principles. It's principle based that he follows. He created commandments. It's kind of
mm-hmm.
rare that you see a barber create all this stuff. Yeah. Patents on products.
Yeah. Well, that's really why you're here. That's why I say on the show, like, I think there's something really different and interesting, and the approach is so different, especially for your industry. It's like. It's just completely different, right? It's always been, when I've always thought barber, it's always been sort of a very sort of humble, small kind of mom and pop type gig, right?
Absolutely.
Not this whole other idea.
Yeah, it's cool because now there's high school kids that are like looking at people on Instagram with these big followings, mm-hmm. making barbering look like this amazing thing to do, and they're telling their parents they want to be a barber. 10 years ago, that wasn't.
Yeah, if they're saying that, they're like, okay, that go for it. But it wasn't like the career path was just different, right?
Right.
So, really, before we sort of get into where you're at and what you're doing, and I want to talk about sort of content and all that. But as I said, I'm really interested in going from 0 to 1. So. What does it take from like my biggest shtick kind of thing? My biggest like topic here is really how do people start? Because
mm-hmm.
It's one thing to build your business or your audience or whatever after you've started, bringing it from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 or 100 to 1,000.
Yeah.
But to actually start is generally the biggest hurdle, and the biggest distinction that I've found, especially whether it's been on the show or just in general observation of entrepreneurs in general, is that the biggest problem is being able to say, hey, like, I'm actually going to jump off this cliff, even though I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to do it and take that chance. That moment seems to be where most people get held up, and you either do it and it's great. Generally, I don't see there's very little. You either do it and it's great, or you don't and it's not. Or you didn't, and we're going to talk about this too. You didn't put 100% in, where you maybe had an out or a plan B or something like that, and so ultimately that attempt fails because you didn't put in everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go kind of back to. You're not from Sacramento, right?
Correct.
You came out here to do barbering, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, where are you from? How did you start out? What did it look like, a few years ago?
Okay. So, I know it's beautiful here in California. It's
mm-hmm.
like sunny days every day, but
it's
in
hot
Ohio,
here in Sacramento, man.
But it is hot. It is hot. That's true. I'm used to it by now.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy it. I don't know. When I was in Ohio, I just remember always being gloomy.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you have sunny days, but gloomy, rainy days. And I lived in the house I grew up in Ohio was a basement. That's
mm-hmm.
where I stayed at my mom's house. And I remember when it would rain,
mm-hmm.
the water would flood into my room, like a weekly thing. There would be
really?
Mold on the walls.
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
Under my bed, I found out later. And I just remember being in that situation. Like, I want to paint that picture because as an 18-year-old kid, you know, you're trying to figure it all out. You just graduated high school. And I remember my mom, who was just a frustrated parent, banging on the like stomping. Like, my ceiling is her floor. Yeah. And I can still hear it. Like, oh, my mom's mad. I don't know what she wants me to do, clean it, whatever. And really, it's not what she wanted me to do. She was just frustrated. She couldn't communicate. Like, my son needs to find his way, you know? And she's putting this pressure on me. And I had just dropped out of college. I was studying business, dropped out because I knew, like, what I want to do doesn't even need this, you know?
Why did you, well, how did you get into business? Like, how long were you doing it? Were you doing college for very long?
That's the most disappointing part to a parent, is when your kid is one semester away from graduating his associate's degree.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I already did 4 semesters, just had to finish up a couple credits.
Some time in, you put the money in.
Yeah.
How did your mom feel about that?
She always kind of knew, like, I would figure it out, but still there was that pressure of, like, this is the most trodden path. Like, why aren't you taking it? Why don't you just finish what you started? 100%. But to me, it was, like, unnecessary. I'm the type of person that just burns the bridges and goes all in once I figure it out. So
is that something that you've always been that way, or was it something that you had to discover about yourself?
Yeah. Like, I remember playing football all throughout my little league, junior high, and then when it came time for high school, I just stopped all of a sudden at once, because I realized, like, that's not even what I want to be doing. And I had all this pressure from, like, coaches and people, friends, parents telling me, but I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. So I just stopped. So I've always been, like, a free thinker, been able to, like, go my own way. But there's something about, like, being a kid that has the pressure of the world, your parents telling you need to have your life figured out. Like, you need to be able to pick a major, pick a job,
dude, it's nuts. Like, it's just so funny. It's like, how do you, like, most, like, 30-year-olds don't know what they're doing, right? Like,
you really don't have it figured out until
like,
you're like 40.
Most 40-year-old, like, even at that age, it's kind of like, well, my life is what it is now, so I'm just gonna keep going down that path. So how in the world, like, are you gonna know what you're doing if you're 18 or 20 or whatever? Like, you have no real experience, like, right? Like, how do you even know?
And it's cool because Zay the Barber was one of the videos that I saw that inspired me to follow the barbering profession. Like, we talked off camera about how now on Instagram you can see barbers with 100,000 followers, and they're living this lavish lifestyle, and they only go to the shop a few days a week, and they're charging these crazy prices, and, like, it looks like very attractive compared to 10 years ago. A barber was some guy in a shop, maybe a bunch of, like, people reading magazines, smoking cigarettes, and reading the paper. Like, it wasn't attractive. And it's a whole different scene. And I remember a video of Zay when he was 18 years old doing exactly that.
Crazy. And
I saw it, and I'm like, I'm the same age as this kid. I'm in Ohio at the time. And
were you in, like, going down that profession yet?
It fell in my lap.
Okay.
It just fell in my lap. I was cutting my own hair. I was cutting my friend's hair. I was being introduced to all these people, you know, the college basketball team in my city, all these people that I never would have met if I didn't cut their hair. So I'm thinking, like, all right, this is my path. Like, God, the higher power, whoever you believe in, like, I got to follow this. You know, he's telling me this is it. And then I come across Zay the Barber doing this, and I'm like, yeah, I got to go. I got to.
From all the way, like, Sacramento. Like, he's in Sacramento. You see him posting stuff, and you're like, you gotta go to Sacramento? Is that really what happened?
Yes. So
crazy.
I remember getting off the phone with, like, a 10-minute phone call from the owner of the shop, Chuka, one of the biggest brands in the barber industry, the Rich Barber Company. And he says, yeah, Joel, I think we got an opportunity for you. I hung up the phone, and I got to work. I was like, all right, I'm dedicating everything to this. I'm going all in. I remember buying the one-way ticket from Ohio. Didn't even tell my mom until after I did it. Didn't tell anybody. I just wanted to do it on my own, you know? Like, I didn't want anybody to influence that decision.
What point were you, like, when was it on that phone call where you're like, okay, I gotta shift, or had you already made the mind shift where it's like, I'm gonna give 100% to this?
Yeah, it was already made. It was already made.
What moment did that? Was it a moment, or was it a period of moments?
It was a period of moments. I remember that pressure of being like, I have to get out of this situation. You know, like, being in that basement, just the stimulus around me is like, I was, like, getting into, like, depression phases of like, nothing around me is like what we all have a vision in our mind of what we want our life to look like. it didn't look anything like that. And if I stayed there any longer, I can't tell you where I would be, you know? So the decision was made there. Like, I'm going to figure this out because I have no other option.
You're literally in the ground at your lowest point, right?
Yeah, like rock bottom. Everybody has a rock bottom in their
Yeah.
life, and then everybody has like a vision that they want
Yeah.
for their life. Two important things to keep in mind, no matter where you are. And I was at rock bottom. I was just whatever I could do to get out of there.
Totally. No, I completely understand. I mean, when I decided to finally do this,
Yeah.
and go all in, and it was a very quick process even starting the company, but like I remember I was my wife, she works with the company now, but previously the other company, every single holiday she had to like work overnight shifts. And so I remember having a like brand new 6-month-old baby at home on my birthday, and it was like she was working an overnight shift. I'm just sitting there and like we have zero opportunities right now. Nothing is happening. Like I can't live this way anymore because it doesn't match up with my ultimate goal, the ultimate thing I want to do. And so that it just clicked, and I was like, okay, I got to get to work now, right?
Yeah.
Just like, like, okay, like going to Sacramento. So what happened when you told your family about the fact that you were going to be going to Sacramento, one-way ticket?
My mom cried immediately, just busted out crying.
Because she was sad or disappointed or both?
I was like one of the people that supported her. Like, she was just going through a lot, you know, not only with like being a disappointed parent of like my kid doesn't seem like he's figuring it out, but also just going through a lot of other things in life, in her personal life. And I feel like I was one of the people that she could kind of rely on. And then I told her one day, like, hey, I'm out. Yeah. Like she didn't realize that, well, it looked like a kid that wasn't doing anything, dropped out of college and stuff, and he's just down there hanging out with his friends. No, I had a plan. Like, I was saving money, like I was thinking about how much expenses I would need in order to go live in California. Like, how much do I need to save? So no one had an idea. She was clueless. My friends were clueless. I had like 2 friends that really knew and like kind of supported me. Kind of. No one has your vision, so you can't really.
That's cool, dude. Like, whatever. Yeah, like it's especially if they're sort of, were they in a mindset where like they wanted to do something cool, or was it really just like, whatever, man, like go for it? Did they think did they think that you were going to succeed?
The conversation went like this: yo, I think it's time for me to like move to the West Coast. Like, I really want to live in California. That's what's up, bro. I'm like, no, like, I'm serious. And they're like,
did they think you think they thought you would not do it?
Yeah, because everyone talks, but especially in a small town like that, we all have things we say we want to do, but like, no, my standard is that. Everybody says that they want that, but their standard isn't that high. Yeah. Like, no, I literally have to do it. And so I would tell them that, and they could see I was like not joking, but even then it's like, I don't know if he's really about it or if he's going to be able to do it. So they would say like, yeah, but you should probably just kind of wait it out, make sure you have everything figured out first, right? And I'm like, no, I'm going to just commit first and figure the rest out later. And I realized the longer you wait to carry on your friends, piggyback your mom or your uncle or your girlfriend along with you to your goals, the longer it'll take for you to reach them.
Yeah. Or if at all, right?
If at all, yeah, for sure. If I would have just waited, I wouldn't be here. I already know the opportunity would have been
Talk
gone.
a little bit about that. I always talk about entrepreneurship as like you're sort of jumping off a cliff and you have all the parts to build a plane, and you have to build a plane on the way down.
Oh, wow.
Pull up before you basically crash and burn. Yeah. And similar idea of like burning your boats, right? If you want to take an island, you got to burn the boats. And I know you talk a lot about I think you say sink or swim, or I read that on a post or something about you either sink or swim or something like that. But talk a little bit about that, because I think it's so important. I think and I see it actually. I see this happening where if you don't commit and plan B, right? I think plan B is the worst plan you can have, because it's going to take, even if it takes a little bit, like your day job, right? Don't quit your day job. Yes, but eventually you got to make your main hustle into your side hustle into your main hustle, right?
Yeah,
like, correct. And you got to quit your job eventually. But if you hold on to that, or you have some option to be able to get out what you're doing, you're not going to do it, because from a sort of biological like standpoint, right? Like we are made in a way where we're going to take the easiest route.
Yeah.
That's literally, it's part of our DNA. Like
literally,
and so the only way, at least for me, I've realized that I wouldn't do the 100-hour work weeks and day after day, year after year, if I had not actually just said, no, there's only one option, and jumped so far in that you can't even go back. Right? Because the moment you want to get far enough out, you want to, you don't want to, oh, there's one boat there that I can maybe get away at some point. Like, it's safety nets aren't a good thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately you want to, be able to build wealth and create stability and multiple, income streams and all of that. But when it's beginning, you got to focus on what is that one thing that's going to allow me to like really give 110%. If you don't give 110%, it's not going to work, or at least it won't be as rewarding. Right. Yeah. So that being said, is like, what was your thought process there? Was it really like, was it that where you're like, okay, I'm not going to do it otherwise? Or did you even inherently know that's what you were doing?
Yeah, no, I had the mindset of I'm going all in, betting all my chips. When I got to Sacramento, I sat down with Chuka and he says, okay, that's great to meet you, bro. So when are you going back to Ohio? I said, what? I'm not going back to Ohio.
One-way ticket, man.
He says, oh, so you moved here? And I'm like, yeah. I moved here. Yeah. So it's the concept of, I think it was a story of Cortez. He moved to, there was this island with this treasure, and everybody was trying to go get this treasure from this island. They were always outnumbered. The people on that island always won the battle. Yep. And Cortez had this idea, no, we're going to send 100 ships here. We're still going to be outnumbered. But when he got to the island, he looked at his soldiers and said a few words. He said, let's burn the ships. Yep, 100%. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, because if we burn these ships, you guys are all going to want to get back to your family, and you're going to do it on their ships. We're going to take the treasure, and then we're going to take their boats back home. And they're like, all right. So they end up winning the battle, even though they were outnumbered. And that just relates to you and your vision, you and your goals. 100%. If you don't go all in, the chances, because we always say, I'll have this as my safety net in case I get scared.
People don't know what an all-in means. They don't understand that actually going all in means you don't have another option, right? Because they think it just means like working really hard and trying it, and then if it fails, whatever. It's like, no, like you need to understand, if it fails, it's like tragic. Like you're fucked. Like if I failed at what I'm doing, it would be very bad. You know what I mean? Like, and I continually put myself in that position where it's not going to be as easy. Like, the easier it gets to where if it fails and you're okay, that's not a good position to be in. You don't want that. Like, and that's the hardest thing, because especially if you have a safety net or you have another job, it's like, well, this is harder, but like if it fails, whatever, right? So I interrupted you though.
No, you're fine. That's great. And the two things that really are valuable with going all in, I feel like, are for yourself personally, because when I sat there and said, oh yeah, like I'm not going back to Ohio. Yeah. And he's like, what? You moved here? The epiphany he had, this kid's for real. Yep. I get 100 DMs a month from kids just like him, and he's not like any of them. He's the 1%. That convinced him. I didn't have to do any talking. You have a few suitcases here with you, and you're looking for a place to stay because you moved here to work here. Oh, okay. Compared to kids saying, hey, man, I want to work at the shop, you know? Do you guys take walk-ins, or like how am I going to get clients when I get there?
Because they're just pondering, right? They're just thinking and pondering and questioning and like trying to figure it out and kind of doing their research. Like, it's like but if you do research like for 5 years, what does it matter? Like,
it's all intangible.
Yeah, right. Like eventually you got to start, and people think you do enough. It's kind of like school, right? Like you think like that's why school is such a problem a lot of times with people's mentality, because it teaches you that you just put in a lot of the hard work and then at the end you get the diploma. Where with in real life it's different, right? You have to actually just do the thing first, and then it's just hard work after that. Like you can't what am I trying to say here? Like sorry, I'm losing my train of thought now.
Well, it's like the diploma to me is like the finish line.
Yeah.
But it's like there really isn't a finish line.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. Again, what I was trying to say is that you get the diploma and then you get the job. Where in reality, you actually have to. You get the job first, and then you start working, right? But you don't know anything. Like it's like on the job training. I think that's where it's such a huge like. Sometimes you can get experience and you kind of know what's going on, but you have if there's going to be a point where you're going to jump in, you're not going to know what you're doing.
That's so true. Once you get in, like you said, building the plane on the way down, you first off you just have to jump, which is the scariest thing. Yeah. But then you get the job and you're like, oh shit. I have a lot more to learn. If I'm going to make this work, I have to change.
Because you're naive. Like, right?
I got to the rich barber. I'm like, I still need to master my craft.
Yeah.
I still need to figure out how to get clients. Yeah. I'm at 0. So, yeah, I made this accomplishment.
Hey, you're at the bottom, so the only way is up, right?
Yeah. It's like I went from one rock bottom to another rock bottom. Yeah. This one just happens to not be in a moldy basement. It's in sunny California, but I still have to not make a fool of myself because I can't go back. Like, that's not the option. So, yeah, it's interesting.
So mentor, you talk a lot about this. How important is it? Who was your mentor? Like, what was when coming out here? Who kind of, do you have a mentor still?
Yeah, I'm surrounded by them. I remember being a young kid, and I look at my life kind of as like this puzzle, and everybody's puzzle is filled with certain pieces. And sometimes your puzzle has a missing piece. For me, that was a father. So I always yearned, and like literally that's the only thing I ever wanted was I wish I had mentors. Like I just want someone that could show me the map and I can have a successful map laid out for me, And thinking back to that now, this is like the most grateful I could ever be because I'm surrounded by mentors. I'm in a barbershop full of people that have done everything I want to do or at least in the near future. And then I look at my biggest like goal, person that I wanted to aspire to be like, and I am surrounded by them. So at the time, your question was who was my mentor? It was all through books, it was all through YouTube. I think we're like in this new age era where you can get any information you need.
Yeah, but you kind of, I think you can get way more information than you can ever before. But there's been books around for a long time, you know. So I guess my question then is like, what is that? Why, if the information's there, whether especially today, like I was like, you have no excuse today, right, to like not be able to like pursue what you want to do or do what you want, like, or if you don't understand or have the skill, like you have no excuse because anything you want to do, it's online, like literally.
Just Google the question.
Yeah, and before that, I think there were tons of books too. So like, why? With all this information, like, why do you think people still don't start though?
I actually think we suffer from information overload. So the problem isn't really that we have a lack of information; it's that we have too much, and people are planning instead of executing. Because I remember
trying to research and figure out who's right, kind of thing.
Yeah, like even me, I'm not perfect. I remember before the phone call with Chuka, I wanted to plan out how it was going to go. So I literally took a piece of paper and wrote down the conversation, how I thought it would go. And I was scared to push the call button.
Totally.
He gave me his number on DMs. And I'm like, man, I'm about to do this. This is my one shot. I don't want to work anywhere else. Yeah. So if I mess this up, this is it. So I remember even in that moment, I almost was like hesitating. But if you don't make the decision, the longer you take to commit, the longer everything else is going to take. And I think people just are looking for perfection. And I think I heard the quote that perfection is the enemy of execution. So we just have all these ideas, all this information, but we're never actually going to act on it because we're afraid.
Yep. Yeah, we always talk about here is done is better than perfect. And
I like that.
And especially like we're all we do is content, right? So it's like we have to get tons and tons of content out every single day. Yeah. So eventually, that has to be the plan, Now, that being said, you want to be able to improve, but the first step is actually just just finishing something. Yeah. Because if you can't finish anything, it doesn't matter how good it is, right? There's it's that whole saying of the graves are sort of lined with brilliant people, right? Like that have never done anything.
Yeah.
So it's you have to be able to just execute, even if it sucks, right?
Yeah, doing the things that you hate to do usually is where you get to the next level.
So you were saying, like, especially books were a big thing for you, books, YouTube, all of that, and then you came here and you realized you were sort of surrounded by mentors. Do you kind of feel like it's that whole idea of surrounding yourself with who you want to be, essentially?
Yeah. I remember I had a client. I showed him. I created a documentary. Ever since I've been on this journey of being in that basement to now, I've been recording and documenting,
which is awesome, dude. Like,
thank you, bro.
Like, seriously, I was gonna say, like, you need to do more of that. Like, I don't think you have enough on there.
That's good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think it's great showing your craft, but man, like, the fact that you have documented, like, you being from in a like shitty basement to where you are now, and you're not even, like, how long has it been? Like,
it's been 2 years.
Yeah, like, fuck, like, that's like not a lot of time.
Yeah,
like,
I was just
think about again, talking about 10 years from now, like,
oh wow,
that's gonna be nuts. Like, it's that is gonna be more important as you grow. But that's sort of a side thing. I think you should post more, because I think it's a really interesting thing. It's again, it's the same thing that you were looking for, of like, who's the people that are doing the cool shit, who are actually making it happen. Like, you got to think about where are the 19-year-old guys that are like, want to do what I want to do, and they're looking at me now, which is crazy, right?
Because I used to look at Zay.
Yeah, and you guys were at the same. You're like the same age, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, anyways, I interrupted you again. I just
No.
I think your content is awesome, and I think the fact that you've been documenting it is really smart, because not as much as we know that that's important, not everyone does it to a large extent.
So one of those mentors was Gary Vee. I remember he said, "Document, don't create." That kind of inspired me to, like, all right,
we talk about that all the time, man.
Yeah, let me just start taking. I'm so glad that I came across that.
Well, he has that. I think there's that one. There's one really big, like, popular video that he uses a lot, where he's like way back, like in 2008 or 10 or something, where he's like in a plane and it's dark and he has like a hood on. Okay. And at the very beginning, this is before he was even had blown up like he did, and he uses that clip a lot, because he has a lot of good stuff that he can hark back on, just because he's in it for so long. But that idea of documentation over content creation is huge. I mean, it's really what I think a podcast goes underneath that. It's really why we do that, is because it's like, we're literally just documenting a conversation right now. We're not creating some high end, commercial or content piece. It's literally you and I talking.
It's just great quality, but it's
and I mean, but quality aside, like, you can do this on, like, we don't need this. Like, we can do it on a cell phone, right? And I mean, you do plenty of stuff on a cell phone, and it really doesn't matter. It's more about how you can tell the story. But okay, so Gary Vee, document, don't create.
Yeah, and you asked me about going from books to real life.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll have to make that jump. There's no excuse, like you said. You can find the information, but at some point, you need to be surrounded by it, because you will always be impacted by the people that you are around. It's almost impossible to not be impacted by.
You have to try
the stimulus that you have.
Yeah.
If you have average friends, as bad as it sounds, you're going to be average. Like, if all your friends are making $50K, for you to be the outlier, it's going to take a lot. Like, you're going to have to really be that 1%.
Everyone, whatever group you're in, they want you to be at the same level.
Yeah.
Like, whether you're in a group of, like,
A players
or, like, the bottom of the rung. That's a great point. Right?
A players want to be around A players.
Yeah. And inherently, I think, because our humanness and desire to connect to people, we don't want. It feels awkward when there's that one person that's sort of an outlier who's like, they're like, well, come on, join the group. We want you to be a part of this, because it's awkward with you here. So you either need to leave or join, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's so huge, because it dramatically changes. I mean, everything, right? And it inherently will get you to step up your game. Because you're like, fuck, like, I can't hang out here if I don't, if I'm not bringing my A game, right?
Yeah, we take the path of least resistance constantly. You mentioned in the beginning of the podcast about how that's what we do as humans. It's like genetic. So if you don't, like, take the opportunity to, like, place the pressure on yourself to bring the best out, you're gonna just stay average.
Yep.
You know, like I remember when I got to the Rich Barber, I'm around all of these like highly skilled barbers that have like truly mastered the craft, and you know a feeling when you are around someone who is in mastery. Like it's rare, and it placed the pressure on me because I realized how far I was from that. I didn't even know how to put a hot towel on somebody. I wasn't holding the shears correctly. There's a lot of things I was doing wrong, and I was just thinking like, wow, like I don't know how I got here, but I need to step it up. So every day I was like, I had that pressure. I wasn't just going to the shop, you know, it's another day. It was like, no,
it's game time.
At some point, yeah, I'm gonna either get in or I'm gonna sink or swim, you know, and we need that. So one of the principles in the documentary I created is, I didn't create the principles, but I just created the content. But I based it off of a book called Think and Grow Rich, and the first principle is desire, and then persistence. The third one is mastermind. And I remember I showed it to my client, and he's like, yeah, those are all great, but the 80-20 principle says that you only need like 2 of those principles. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's interesting. And he says, you know what it is? I was like, no, feel free to tell me. And he said, the number 1 principle I pick is mastermind. He's like, if you didn't get around these people, where would you be? And I'm like, okay, that's a fact. So now that I think about it, the most impactful thing you can do is place yourself in an environment of greatness. Like I went from the basement. Yeah, I could be studying Truca, I could be studying Zay, and it was helping me, but I didn't really see a drastic change in myself until I said, all right, you know what? What do I need to bring? I'm packing up enough clothes, all my clippers, I'm going, you know? And then after 2 years now, I become this person because of them, you know? It wasn't because I was staying in my comfortable place where I know all my friends, I know everything's at. It's like, you know, you're in a complete comfortability.
Yep. Well, Tom Bilyeu, I don't know if you follow him.
Yeah, on YouTube.
He sold Quest. Yeah, he's on YouTube. He's everywhere, like, you know, any of the big sort of, but he created Quest bar, nutrition bar, and he sold that for like, you know, millions of dollars, and now he basically just puts out all of this content to change the world. And he was talking about this idea is that we're all sort of born useless, and I think it's really interesting because especially in today's day and age where, you know, it's sort of like everyone's special and you're a special snowflake and you're, you know, write a poem about how special you are and all of this kind of you know, interestingly, because, you know, it's like I think a lot of content that's been created over the past, you know, really 50 to 100 years for kids particularly, it's all about us being special. But in reality, what we don't realize is that we have no tools. Like you're not just you are inherently as a human special, right? But like it doesn't mean that you're good at anything.
Right.
You're actually, you don't have any tools. And so I just thought it was interesting as I was like talking about, as I was looking at your content and then looking at what Tom had posted, and I was thinking, man, like, yeah, that's like, you have to get into a place where you're forced to actually begin to do that really difficult work of going from not being good or having no tools to actually being good, which is not actually, it's like working out, right? It's like, it kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks.
Because sucking is bad. Like that just doesn't feel good. It's not a good thing to not be good at something. Like you want to leave like immediately.
Yeah. So,
what was that like going there every day, knowing like these guys are way better than I am? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know, how did you keep going? How did you keep showing up?
I had to leave my ego at the door every day because I remember like every ounce of it got destroyed. I remember there's one video, I thought I was doing something really great. I created a video. I had someone help me record the video of a haircut. I do the hot towel, and I'm like, man, I'm just adding services. I'm like, I'm Rich Barber, man. I'm figuring this out, you know? And the video comes out. We figure out the right music to put behind it and all this stuff. It's like, I never really created a video like that. I thought it was going to blow up and be a big deal. And I overhear Deluxe, Done the Barber, and another one of the guys looking at it, and they're like criticizing it. They love me. Like, they're not doing it out of like putting me down, but they're just like, this kid needs to figure it out. We're going to have to help him, bro. And I went over to them like, all right, what is it? What did I do? And they're like telling me the way I put the hot towel on, like, that's not how you do it. Yeah. And it's like, I expose myself, you know? And so,
that's a great piece of content to have, though. Like,
Yeah.
you literally now have this piece of content where you screwed up. Like, so, for example, like when I completely lost my train of thought, earlier in the podcast.
oh yeah,
It's happened before, and it happens a lot. Like, this is part of the reason I'm doing this is so I can help train myself to be just a better communicator.
I saw you said these are scheduled out. You just have to.
Yeah, I have to show up, right? Like, so.
You kind of burn the boats too.
Oh yeah, with this,
Yeah.
that's the point, right? Like, I think it's a mentality that you have to take into every piece of your life, and you have to do it on a constant, consistent basis.
I agree.
Otherwise you're not gonna get any better. And I'm way better than I was when I first started this, 100% better. But I still have times where I'm like, all of a sudden I lose my train of thought. Like, it just happens.
Yeah.
And so, but I have the content, which is great. Like, and I've said, we haven't done it yet, but I've said, like, I'd love to create a piece where I just mess up, like where I'm like, forget what I need to say or whatever.
Yeah.
It's because it shows not only that you're human, but that you actually can improve.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know where we were in that conversation. You're saying that they were saying, like, you need to fix this.
Exactly. And you're like, that's a great piece of content. It's true. Those moments are like when you're going to look back on it and be like, wow, like, I really put myself, this kid that had no idea, but just had a really like burning desire, you know, and I just placed him in this environment and he figured it out. And here's the proof.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool to look back on, like you said, 10 years from now.
So, you know, I'm a big believer in sort of the idea of, I guess, manifesting your destiny, like saying, like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the type of persona that I'm going to carry, even though I'm not there. So,
Absolutely.
like one of the things I have on my Instagram, it says producer. And I'm not, again, from we do productions, but, like, it's not, like, big movies or anything like that. But I have it on there because that's a sort of goal of mine to produce larger scale pieces of content.
There you go.
And then I even having, CEO of Blackfield Media on there, I've never felt like a CEO. We have a small company. Like, CEOs to me, like, you have a big, large company and you're a lot of responsibility.
Okay.
But the reason I do that is because I believe it's the kind of person I want to be.
There you go.
Like, when I started this, for example, I would literally, like, I didn't have any clients. I had one client, and I would wake up at, hit work at as early as I could, or before work at that time. But, basically it was like, 7, 8 o'clock. I'm like showing up to work, and I'm going to be working, at least until 5. Basically, I started working all the time, but it was still this idea of, like, even if I don't have clients, I'm still going to show up every day as if I'm going to work.
That's
and I have
powerful.
clients, and I'm gonna continue to do the work, and I'm not gonna just spend a bunch of time on Instagram or whatever. I'm gonna spend the time executing, and if I don't have a client, I'm gonna execute on internally how I can get better. And so that being said, I really believe in sort of this idea of manifesting your destiny. Do you feel like that's been a big part of how you've gotten to where you are, because you're so like, this is going to happen, this is who I am, I just need to grow into it and accept that? Yes,
thoughts is powerful, because even in my life, even in my career, things ended up turning out exactly how I visualized them.
Isn't that crazy?
And when I think about what you just said about showing up every day, as a barber, that's one of the most powerful things you can do. The most common question I get now is, hey, Jfadeit, I'm looking to be a barber, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And, like, how do I get clients? If you work in a shop and you're not there, you're never going to get clients. You got to be there every day. And most barbers
free work. You're talking about free work, right? Like,
you just got to show up.
You got to cut people's hair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You got to show up.
Regardless. And if they're not going to pay you, then you got to, like, still do it.
Yeah,
Eventually
for sure.
they will, right?
Exactly. You got to build it up. I remember I wasn't charging $50 for a haircut when I first got here.
Totally.
You got to build it up. And
my first client, $300 a month. That's literally what it, like, for, like, months. That was all I was getting, was $300 a month for, basically running all of their social. Like, it was nuts. And, like,
so you did a lot of work for a small amount.
I did a lot of work for nothing, basically. But they gave me an opportunity to create work. And so what I did is I went to work. Like, I had a camera. I learned how to take better photos. I learned how to write copy. I learned how to manage. Like, I learned all of these things, and I said, it's just an opportunity, and I'm going to create this, and eventually it will pay off. And
that's amazing. That goes to show how powerful it is, what you said about manifesting who you want to become. Because I remember listening to Ed Mylett, and he talked about
I love that dude, man. He's so cool. Like, just like such a real dude. Like, he's very like masculine, and like he's just a big
tough
dude.
Guy.
But he's like, in many ways, he's just such a soft heart and like a good
like
dude.
Understanding.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah. For sure.
Anyways, Ed Mylett.
So Ed Mylett talks about this concept of the thermostat on the wall, and it has an identity, and your identity is really just kind of what you believe about yourself, who you think you're capable of becoming, what's your potential. So for you, it was, I'm a CEO, you know, and you said you might not necessarily feel like that's what you're really doing right now, but that's your identity.
Yeah.
And the thermostat means that the temperature is going to rise.
Yep.
Eventually, that's what you're going to become. You know, so I was the kid in the basement, 18 years old, saying, I'm a rich barber. I remember telling myself that constantly.
Mantras.
Yes, it's so easy. That was one of the most easiest burning desires to ever create. Yep. I'm a rich barber. It just, everything about it, perfect. It fit me.
Yep.
I'm a rich barber. No one has to understand what I'm talking about, but I know I'm a rich barber. I'll tell myself that. And now looking at my life, you know, I might not have the Lamborghini and the, you know, but like my lifestyle compared to what it was is rich. And it was all manifested from, I'm a big believer in like vision boards, like you said, mantras.
Yep.
In the documentary, I literally show the vision board, and this was on it, you know? It's so crazy. So, when it comes to visualization, manifestation, vision boards are so important, mantras, like you said, giving yourself labels that you might not be there yet, but knowing like that you can create it if you just have that long-term approach.
Like on Google Calendar kind of runs my life, and every Sunday, because I'm working every single day, but every Sunday particularly because it's the day before Monday, I always have this event that I continually move, like, and I have to manually move it to the next week, and it says on the other side of pain is happiness, is success, and I do that because I know I have to physically look at it every single Sunday. And there's other things that I do sort of like that, but I have to look at that and say, okay, like, I'm here on a Sunday. I've worked every single day this week, and I know I'm going to do it next week, and I know I'm going to do it the week after that.
You work Sundays?
Every day. Every day.
7 days a week. Right, don't
stop.
Hustle hard.
Yeah.
Don't sleep.
Like, I just, again, I'm a believer that, you can have anything you want, but you have to put the time in. And, you know, speaking of Gary, it's like that whole idea of eat shit today and, you know, for a couple years, so you can eat caviar for the rest of your life. And,
yes, sir.
And again, my goals, though they are financial, it's not due to for financial reasons, but you still have to put the time in. And I don't think you can get it any other way. There's no shortcuts. And, you know, again, like, even speaking of, you know, Lamborghinis and nice cars, most people that have those on Instagram anyways, they're rented anyways, because most successful the majority of successful people don't really have time to focus on that kind of stuff. And they would rather, you know, put that money into buying a multifamily apartment complex or something, right? Like,
right, that's true.
So I don't know where I was going with that, but again, because the whole idea of having things that you're always looking at, mantras, and telling yourself over and over and over again, because again, doing this it's not a comfortable thing to show up every day and not be good at something or begin to get better at something. It feels good after, like, you know, it feels a lot better today than it did the first year, that's for sure.
There you go.
But you still have problems, right? I was talking about last week.
I saw that. Yeah,
you know, just how it's like, you sign up for them, right? Like, you have to, and once you do sign up for them, once you do actually say, hey, like, these things are actually good, they're actually going to get me to where I want to be. Yeah. And that's such a hard thing to do. So, going back to, I saw a post, and this kind of goes back to our previous discussion, but you had mentioned there's no secrets, like, right? Like, some people, when they want to start, they think there's a bunch of secrets, right? It's like, you just have the right knowledge. But for you, like, how do you realize, like, at what point did you get to a place where you're like, you know, I can just get it if I want to, like, if I just go for it. I don't know what you were reading today, but you know, I came over to you and you were reading. So are you still constantly reading? Are you still constantly consuming information?
Yeah. Right now it's just 10 pages a day. So just simple.
10 pages a day. That's your goal.
Yeah.
Why 10 pages a day?
To give you the honest answer is because I'm doing a challenge of 75 hard.
Okay, that's
so
great.
If you're familiar with Andy Frisella?
Oh yeah.
And
He's literally what inspired me to do this podcast.
That's fire.
Yeah. So like
nice.
And there's like, I was at one point doing like sort of this podcast, and I was doing one with just myself where I was just kind of like ranting for 7 minutes. But like I saw his podcast and I was like, dude, like this is so good. Like he's so real and he's like so clear. But going back to what you said, so Andy Frisella, 75. What is it called again?
It's called 75 hard. Yeah. And so one of the challenges inside of that challenge is you need to read 10 pages a day for that 75 days straight.
How long have you been doing it?
I actually failed on day 13. And if you read the fine print, it means that once you fail on any of those challenges, whether it's the water, the reading, the workouts, you actually have to start over at day 1. So I failed on day 13. Now I'm on day 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it going thus far?
It's going great.
Yeah.
You know, it's just every day. If I don't, the great thing about it is it's making me form habits. I hate myself at the end of the day if I still have to do 2 of my workouts, or if I still have to chug half a gallon of water still because I didn't drink it throughout the day. So it's like
it teaches you sort of consistency throughout the day, rather than and you have to hit it hard like at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, it's going to suck at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, nobody wants to chug bottles of water before bed. Nobody wants to at midnight read 10 pages. I remember falling asleep, like, oh shit, I need to read 8 more pages. Like, what it's doing is it's forcing me to have these habits of a successful person. It's really not even about like the 2 workouts that it makes you do. The like changing your body is going to be just like a positive benefit that you get at the end, like a little gift you get. But it's all mental. Like you said, I'm showing up at work every day. I don't take Sundays off. That's how the challenge is. You can't take any days off. So it's just forming that mindset.
I mean, I was going to say, like, we were up in Portland, Josiah and I, last month filming it. It's sort of like a startup wellness brand, but they were talking about sleep and how I thought it really applied to a lot of things, because like, if you want to get up at early in the morning, you got to do it every day. Like you can't get to Saturday or Sunday and then sleep in. It won't work.
Oh, okay.
And I really believe that, because I think, one, not only have I experienced it because I want to get up early, but then I sleep in on, it's like, man, it's Saturday, I have some time, like, and then all of a sudden it throws everything off, and then I'm back to that sort of up and down schedule. So yeah, I think consistency over time is huge.
Fire. Yeah.
And with working out too, again, I think going back to that mental, right? Like it's more priming you to always be ready and in that mode, right? It's not even as much about the future. It's more of just it continually puts you in that sort of frame of mind. I mean, I beyond, again, working out being a good thing for being healthier and whatnot, it also like is nice for when you've had a shitty day or whatever, or if you do it at the beginning. So is the workouts really hard or is pretty simple?
It's just 2 simple rules, 45 minutes each.
Cool.
One of them must be
per
outside.
Day?
Per day.
So 2 workouts a day.
Yes.
How does that going?
From a guy that used to work out 3 days a week.
Yeah.
A bonus of 4 maybe if I was really, really doing good. I would always have the excuse of like, oh, you know what? Fridays, Saturdays, those are like the busiest days of the shop. There's no need to get up earlier and go to work out. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But now it's like somehow I've made time to work out twice, even on my Saturdays. So those are one of the toughest things. There's a diet. You have to follow a diet of your choice, whatever you choose.
Yeah.
You could do the Atkins diet. You could do the 2,000 calorie diet. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever diet.
Just choose.
Yeah, just choose one.
Which is actually ultimately more important. Is you got to just choose.
Just make a decision.
Make a decision, right?
And I remember listening to this Grant Cardone quote, and he said that like the longer you take to commit, the longer it takes for your results.
Yep.
And it was that simple. He wrote it on a whiteboard, and I'm just looking at it like, okay. I knew exactly what I needed to commit to, because I had just watched the Andy Frisella video about it, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm committing to this 75-day challenge. And
you just gotta do it. Like I remember last year, I had a lot of health issues, and it kept me from working out. And I was waiting. I was like, okay, in the new year, like January 1, I'm gonna start doing it. And I think I got to mid-December, and I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like like tomorrow never comes. Like, why am I waiting till some arbitrary date to start to change my life?
Wow.
And so I was just like, okay, I gotta go now. Like, like today. Like, you can't, like, tomorrow's not gonna come. Like, you gotta do it today. And I just think I completely agree with that, because we most of the times why we pick certain things in the future to start something I believe it's our brain's way of saying, like, just be safe now. Like, you don't have to worry about it if it's in the future. Yeah. And then when it gets there, guess what? Your brain's going to do the same exact thing, and you're like, oh, this week doesn't. This I've had a crazy week or whatever.
So
like,
true.
You know, I really, like, especially this year with. I think there's so much connected to just our sort of how our brain works in terms of that we're just animals, and we don't, until we realize that everything we're doing is trying to our brain is trying to put us into the safest place, to not have any fear or pain or anything uncomfortable.
Yeah, or pain, man.
Like, and pain comes in a lot of forms, right? Pain comes in the form of having to sit here in front of a camera, right?
Yeah.
Or it comes in the form of having to actually communicate with your coworker or your girlfriend or whatever. Like, pain comes in so many forms. And that's why I think Tony Robbins, a great example, is every single day, he has like 7 houses or whatever all over the world. He has a private island, whatever. But at each of those homes, he has basically a freezing dunk tank.
I love it. Cryotherapy.
One I think is like he actually has like a stream that's like, snow runoff, so it's always freezing.
So he just gets in the stream.
But a lot of them, like, it's literally this like this pool. You can't even all you can do is sort of dunk in and then get out. And it's freezing. It's absolutely freezing water. Same idea of cold showers, right?
Yeah.
And he does it. It's the first thing. He gets up and he goes right into it and then gets out. And the whole
first
idea.
Thing in the morning.
Yeah, because he's priming his mind to do something uncomfortable every single day.
That's fire.
And it doesn't matter if it's Saturday or Sunday, or if you had a tough day the day before. Like, you got to do it every single day. And I don't take cold showers. I do kind of want to. I'm kind of intrigued, but I haven't gotten there.
You kind of have to do it now. You just said it on camera.
I know. Fuck yeah. Like, it's been every single time. I'm like, every single time I turn on the hot water, I'm like, nope, not today. But that I know I need to get there, and it's one of those looming things for me personally. But it's you have to do something tough every single day, at least every single week, right? Like, like you get so comfortable really quick. Right? Like, it's just all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I want to chill or whatever. Like, your body will quickly, the more you put off, the easier it is to put everything else off, right?
Right.
So we're almost done here. Question I wanted to ask you was what's the, and maybe it's part of what we talked about, but what's the one thing you think that the one thing that equates to you getting to where you are right now, like looking back at where you were in the basement, not doing anything to basically paving your pathway, right?
Right.
What is that one thing?
Just having a vision, making a plan from that vision. So everybody has to have their rock bottom. They have to have the vision that they aspire to, right? And it might be far down the road. But you have to have both of those. You have a plan, and then realize it's not going to be a straight line. Most people think like, all right, here I am, rock bottom. Yeah. I'm going to get to my vision, my goals. Tony Robbins, 7 houses in a living on the beach, right? And they think like, all right, let me just make that straight line. Nah, you have to almost envision also the failures in yourself, like getting past each failure. You know what I mean? Instead of like most people, they have a vision, they experience the first failure, and then they're like, all right, it must have been not meant to be. Yep. So you have to like literally have a plan that includes failures. Yeah. And you're just like optimizing.
Includes failures.
Yeah, optimizing as you go.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the problem, right? Like, you realize problems you sign up for it, right? Like, when you're going to do something, you got to like, failures is part of actually the process of being successful. Yeah. And until you understand that deep down, right? Like, it's going to knock you down every time because you think it's not supposed to be there.
You think it's just all peaches and cream.
Right?
Well,
it's like that Michael Jordan where he I don't remember which quote it is, but he talks about how the amount of like how many times he was put in a position to win the winning shot, and he failed, right? Like but no one ever who talks about it,
Yeah. Take shots,
Do
bro.
people talk about Michael Jordan's failures?
No,
not at all. And that's the I think a true champion, right? It doesn't matter how, like Muhammad Ali, he wasn't the greatest, like, but he positioned himself and said, I'm just going to do it and I'm going to claim it, right?
Yeah.
And then people think of him that way.
Straight up. So that's it. That's the summary. Is just
cool.
Have a vision, go all in, envision the failures, envision yourself overcoming them. Yeah. And just don't stop.
Yeah. I was talking about time plus patience plus hard work. Like that's all you like.
Ooh.
If you have patience, and you put hard work in every day, and you don't think about making it in 5 years or 10 years, and you think, well, if I do this, eventually it'll happen. Then it'll happen. Just patience and hard work. Forget about everything else, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
As I said, what's great about your journey and many of the people who come on the show is that in 10 years you'll get an invite. Natalie will send you an invite, and it'll be for 10 years in the future. So I'm hoping that you're gonna be like in a whole different stratosphere from where you are now.
Yeah,
10 years, lots gonna happen in 10 years. So,
right.
So yeah, puts a little pressure on you. I know
it does. Yeah, no, for sure. How old will you be?
In 10 years, 42.
I'll be 32.
Yeah.
So
you're on a good path. That scares me even saying. I haven't actually said that out loud. Like thinking about being 40, but yeah, that's so awesome. Like
wow.
you're like most kids haven't even figured it out, right? Like when they're like until they're like, I didn't have it figured out until I didn't have it figured out. I didn't start the journey of figuring it out until I was like 27.
Okay. So, I like how you worded that. Start the journey of figuring it out.
Yeah, well, it's a different, I think you have to have the mind shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that at 27 I became what I will be someday in the future because I just said that's me. But
so dope.
Again, it's time. It's just that patience of doing it every single day. So, thank you so much. Expect that invite, and I don't know when this is gonna. It'll probably be in a couple weeks. Probably longer than that, but we'll share it with you. So,
okay.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Thank you.